And we are joined by Republican frontrunner, presidential candidate Ron Paul. Even mainstream media admits he's in second, third, and in some cases first place. And, of course, in national polls, he's the only person who can beat President Obama. And he joins us today. Congressman, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Alex. Good to be with you again.
It's good to have you with us. There is so much happening. I've got a lot of questions, but what is most important, Congressman, right now on your radar?
Well, it's continue to do what I've been doing. You know, a lot of people say, well, what's your strategy? What are you going to do differently? And you know me well enough that probably the last 30 years, especially the last 10 years since we've known each other, I do the same thing over and over again, but I try to improve not only the delivery, but the message always stays the same, but we get better organized. So we'll continue to do that. And the big thing now is these next 3 weeks. I mean, you know how much energy we put into Iowa and New Hampshire because, it offers an opportunity. It's a smaller state, and you can meet a lot of people, and you can do direct mail. So we've done our very, very best. We think we're in a good position, but we're going to work right up until, the caucuses occur on the 3rd, and then, of course, the primary in New Hampshire on the 10th. But it's unbelievable how much volunteer work we're getting, and there's so much work going on outside of the campaign. It's so fantastic. So I believe that could be our secret weapon, that nobody measures the amount of activity going on outside the campaign. But we're going to continue to do exactly what we're doing with a lot more energy.
They continue to try to sell this mind game or this self-fulfilling prophecy that even though he wins all these straw polls and even though he's always a top-tier candidate, you still can't have him. But I think that hoax is really beginning to backfire on them.
Yeah, I don't know how long they can get away with. If Newt wins Iowa, he's a shoe-in for the whole nomination. If I win, it's a total fluke, and I'm just a troublemaker and a spoiler. But we still have to prove ourselves under the circumstances of the disadvantages with the mainstream media. But we know where we stand. We know what we have to overcome. And I think we're doing a very good job on this. And no matter how they spin it, there's a limit to how much they can spin it. Even when they give me 90 seconds, actually, we've been able to turn that around and turn it into a positive. When you see guys like Jon Stewart and others, just mocking, the unfairness of the system. So we have to keep plugging along. That's all.
They've tried to ignore you. Now that's failing. The attacks are beginning. Do you think that it's going to do the same thing again and boomerang back on them because the mainstream media and political system is so discredited?
Yeah, I think so. And in a way, even though the kingmakers and the mainstream media and the establishment people are gunning, the other candidates, have you noticed that they're a little less aggressive? They're more aggressive against each other than they are against me because I think they know the significance of the number of people, and they're not going out of their way to offend. They say, oh, there's just a couple percent, there's 7 or 8%. But they're being a lot more cautious because they know our percentages are much higher, and we can play a significant role, and they're being a little more cautious at least.
If you were to go after Obama more, pretty much run against Obama, transcend the other Republican minions and point out, as you have, that they're basically just rhino Republican versions of that, and point out that you've pointed out the real problems and are the only candidate that has any shot at trying to turn the ship around.
Well, actually, I think that is good strategy because I wish we had more polling, honest polling with my name against Obama because, we appeal to a lot of independents and even some of the more sensible and honest liberals, the progressives that are anti-war. So I think what you're suggesting is very good, and I would have to admit I don't do enough of that. And it's a mixed bag. Politically, I think is very, very good, and he deserves it, and that's who ultimately you have to run against. But in the primary, I'm not running against him. And I also like to be as upfront as possible, when it comes to analyzing our tragedies and the foreign policy and monetary policy and the economic foolhardiness of it. And, they've been going on for a long time, and it's both parties. But I should at least be more bipartisan and condemn Obama just as much as I criticize some of the things Republicans have done over the years as well.
Look at Mitt Romney, his voting record, Obamacare. He is a Republican Obama. Vote in another Obama. Or look at Newt Gingrich. He's for carbon taxes, Obamacare-style stuff. He is another Obama. And so basically, it's a vote for Obama because either one of those guys is going to beat Obama, but B, it's a vote for Obama because they're just clones of him, just with a little bit different rhetoric. I think that is the secret weapon, Congressman.
Yeah. And I got a little bit out of it, but probably not as sharp as I could have or what you might have done. But, in the debate the other night, I said the two of them are totally on the defensive. They're defending their record. I mean, how can they lead our party if they're defending themselves for not being, for having been like Obama all along? So that is the big issue. And I think probably, Gingrich has been pretty aggressive in that light, so maybe that's one of the reasons he got bumped up a bit. So that's not a bad advice at all.
Ron Paul 2012.com. It is absolutely essential. Obviously, everybody go out and get ready to try to be delegates. Everybody hit the ground in Iowa. I know I have family who's actually gone to Iowa. So there is a massive grassroots operation. All the different ways people can get involved are at ronpaul2012.com. I want to go back to the campaign here in a moment, sir, but they've obviously tried to keep you with 89 seconds in the CBS debate and other places from actually talking about the real issues. And instead they'll ask you, what do you think of Newt? What do you think of Mitt? So they can basically still give you time and not get caught censoring you, but they still censor you in another way. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, that's been ongoing, and I've lived with that for a long time. I have to be on guard for it, but and try to distract them from it. But that's ultimately their goal, is to make a subtle, if not blunt, assumption that, well, you can't win, and therefore we shouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to you. But the only way we can ultimately overcome that is success in Iowa. As a beginning point, if we do really well there, they're going to have a lot harder time doing that to us.
I saw the Republicans here in Austin are going to protest Eric Holder, the Attorney General, today because he wants the UN to oversee our elections. And I agree, that's certainly out of control and treasonous. But this is the guy caught perjuring himself, and the memos CBS released last week show that they said they were going to blame the guns in Mexico on the Second Amendment. Is that not a form of false flag against our most basic of rights, sir? And what would you do, if president, to people like Eric Holder?
Well, he should be immediately fired, and then there should be an investigation and find out if charges should be made. And that's obviously over the top. And all these kind of sting operations and false flag, this is criminal. And I think they do it constantly. I think they were doing that when there was this so-called attempt to kill the Saudi or the Iranian ambassador. That kind of stuff is just way too much. But no, they should be investigating, and that's one thing I think the Government House Committee is doing a pretty good job at investigating that. But I don't know whether charges will be made, but he deserves to have charges, up against him.
Well said, and you got it right the first time. The claim of the used car sales wanting to kill the Saudi ambassador, and even mainstream media had to admit that was totally phony and a pretext to attack Iran.
Yeah, that was the real excuse to blame it on them, and we know that is. I just wonder about that, whether that guy will ever get tried, because if he does, maybe the truth will come out. And sometimes they won't try these people because they don't want the truth to come out. So it's just another propaganda stunt as far as I'm concerned.
Now they want to go after Syria. It's now admitted the U.S., Israel, and others are